That is going to mess up with our sound.
You can close the door.
Yeah, close the door. Close both doors. Both doors.
Yo, boss mesh.
Yes, as I was saying, I'm with Safpu leadership, and you guys are all welcome. And I'm with leadership. On my left-hand side, I've got the VP of the organization, Mr. Tebogo Munyai, and next to him, it's the president of the organization, Thulaganyo Gaoshobele, and I'm on the far side, I've got Mr. Nkanta Shawalala, who is the Secretary General of the organization. Without any more waste of time, I'll give to the leadership to continue with the business of the leadership.
Thank you very much, Fayamlilo. Relay Media Fitlileng. We'll start by reading out the statement to yourselves, and after that, we'll engage and interact with yourselves on this important issue before us. The unveiling the strive, Safpu exposes clubs' failures amidst player salary crisis. In a startling revelation, the South African Football Players Union lays bare the intricate web of failures surrounding Moroka Swallows Football Club, as players grapple with persistent salary challenges that have plagued the club for years. Moroka Swallows Football Club, in a candid acknowledgement, admits to the long-standing issue of overdue salaries affecting its dedicated players. The club declared an earnest commitment to rectify the backlog of payments, shedding light on a historical struggle with salary disbursement since its promotion to the Premier Soccer League. The club considered two critical failures in non-payment of salaries, signing on fees, and the absence of pay slips, citing a malfunction in payroll. The tipping point was reached in November 2023 when the club failed to meet the salary payment deadline, leaving players without their due earnings for the month, which of course was not something new. Despite the financial turmoil, Moroka Swallows players showcased commendable professionalism. They attended training, participated in team workshops, and engaged in tactical training and pre-match reviews as directed by their coaches. We believe the absence of physical training was not a player refusal but a collective decision between players and technical staff, considering the players' physical condition due to lack of payment, health hazards, and mental wellness. Moroka Swallows clarified in their own submissions that players did not refuse training. The absence of a physical training was a coaching staff decision, impacting the club's schedule and leading to the last-minute cancellation of a highly anticipated match against Mamelodi Sundowns. Chairman of Swallows, David Mogashwa, committed and assured players of remuneration by the 22nd December 2023, but failed to fulfill this commitment, in thereby intensifying the crisis. Players' December dues and payable remained unpaid by 26th December, prompting an ultimatum, no payment, no play threat. In a shocking turn of events on December 27, 2023, Moroka Swallows Football Club bore witness to a reprehensible act of betrayal as all team members, in unwavering dedication, dutifully reported for duty and geared up for a fierce battle against Mamelodi Sundowns FC, precisely as per the club's explicit request. The players committed to their profession and loyalty to the club demonstrated their resilience amidst adverse conditions. However, in a blatant display of disregard for players' efforts and the very essence of fair play. The chairman of Moroka Swallows FC took a unilateral and autocratic decision to ruthlessly cancel the highly anticipated match. This egregious act occurred in the midst of delicate negotiations between the South African Football Players Union and the club, showcasing a sinister attempt to undermine both player morale and the pursuit of justice. Contrary to any insinuation, the players harbored no intention of boycotting the game. Their initial communication served as a strategic maneuver, a tactical pressure point aimed at forcing the club to honor its unequivocal promises of timely payments, a commitment that had never been callously neglected. This shocking revelation lays bare the chairman's betrayal of trust and the club's willingness to sabotage its players in the pursuit of self-interest. The players' dedication was met with disdain as their commitment to fulfilling their professional duties was unilaterally discarded. The chairman's autocratic decision not only violated the spirit of sportsmanship, but also showcased a complete disregard for the players' well-being and the integrity of the game. This act of betrayal further underscores the urgent need for accountability within the club's leadership and a thorough investigation in potential violation of player rights. Compounding the issue, the club also proceeded to cancel the 30th December game scheduled against Arrows, doing so without any agreement from the players. On December 30, the club falsely charged the players with unauthorized strike involvement, failure to honor a scheduled game, and breaching the NSL handbook rules. This deceptive move is a clear attempt to evade financial responsibilities, including December salaries and outstanding payments. The club's unilateral action lacks legal grounds and ignores due process under the Labour Relations Act. Safpu vehemently condemns these deceitful tactics and vows to pursue justice, ensuring the club is held accountable for its actions and securing rightful compensation for the players who have been unfairly targeted. The general manager of Moroka Swallows conveyed the club's official stance, asserting that the charges against players were not filed under the Labour Relations Act, which makes provision for strikes, but rather under the NSL handbook. This position is a calculated and dubious maneuver that has raised eyebrows among legal experts and union officials who find it peculiar. They agree with Safpu that the National Soccer League handbook does not contain specific provisions for bringing charges related to game non-participation or unprovoked strikes. The general manager assertion that the club conveniently refrained from issuing ultimatums, despite the players' unwavering commitment, is a feeble attempt to mask the club's culpability. This audacious strategy not only dismisses the severity of the situation, but also exposes a callous indifference to the players' legitimate concerns. The abrupt cancellation of scheduled games and the subsequent charges against players have ignited a heated debate, delving into the intricate balance between league regulations and fundamental labor rights. These unforeseen events have thrust the community into a complex discourse, underscoring the challenges inherent in reconciling the demands of club management with the essential welfare of athletes in the realm of professional sport. As the community anxiously awaits a comprehensive resolution, these occurrences serve as stark illustration of the pervasive struggle faced when navigating the delicate equilibrium between the interests of the club and the fundamental rights of the athletes. Safpu strongly reject the recommendations put forth by the chairperson of the Moroka Swallows internal disciplinary hearing, which unjustly calls for the dismissal of the 22 players by the club. In the face of such egregious recommendations, Safpu is unwavering in its commitment to justice. Excuse me. Should the club proceed with such unjust measures, we will not hesitate to escalate the matter to the dispute resolution chamber and any other relevant tribunal. Our objective is very clear: to ensure that the team faces the consequences and pays a heavy price for any injustice and harm inflicted upon the players. We stand resolute in our pursuit of fairness, ready to take every necessary step to protect the rights and well-being of the players who have been unfairly targeted by these unwarranted recommendations. The club will be held accountable for any actions that undermine the rights and livelihoods of these players, and we will pursue all available avenues to rectify this blatant injustice. And Safpu is of the view that the action by the leadership of Moroka Swallows also undermines the collective efforts of the other clubs to uphold and maintain the integrity and the legitimacy of the league. We also believe that the league has got a huge responsibility to put measures in place to ensure that not only do they respect the validity of the contracts of the players, but also ensure that clubs and the provision of financial fair play, which currently doesn't form part of the handbook, find its way in the provisions of the handbook. This is where our statement read will end. And I'm not too sure if we have shared the same with the colleagues, but we are more than willing to take any engagement on the statement.
Thank you, Press. I think if there are any questions from the floor, I will take the first round. Maybe I'll give I will allow 5 guys to ask questions. Please don't ask more than 3 at once. Second, with any other answer? 2, 3, 4. The last one? Okay. All right. In that order, please.
I just need to find out from the table the level of engagement with the club itself. Were you, as the union, involved during the whole process when it all started and until now? Has there been anything concrete coming from the club itself, whether the chairman or the CEO towards you, whether they are willing to engage further with regards to the matter at hand at the moment? And have you spoken to the players? What is their general consensus?
Thank you very much, Temba. We can confirm that we have been in contact with the players. And by the way, this problem doesn't start now. I think it's very important to underscore that point. But then we can safely say that the players of Moroka Swallows have been honoring the games without playing because they have not been getting their salaries as they ought to in relation with their own contracts of employment. So this whole facade that the players, refused to play because they were not played is just simply that, a facade, and we will, of course, explain why we believe that is so, because at the heart of it is to try and terminate and renegotiate the contracts of the players, but we'll engage further on that. The reality of the matter is that this matter has been going on. We have been engaging with the players, and we agreed with the players to say, explore all internal avenues, agree with the club, and once everything is fine, we're good. But to the extent that you need the organization to be involved, we will then definitely do that. Indeed, on the 12th, you'd know that on the 12th, 13, 14, those are some of the charges, by the way. They are charged that on the 12th, 13, 14 of December, they did not show up for training when they were at training. On the 26th as well, they did not go on training and all that. And the club said to them in their own charges, they will implement the no pay and no salary thing. And we say, let's give it to the club for a minute. And we say, it's fine. Let's say they went on strike, as the club says they did. All right? Let's say we agree with that. But why have the players not yet been paid at this particular point? Because if you apply that principle, it means you'll remove four days and pay them the balance. But clearly, it was not the case. So we're involved on that. And we reject the fact that the players went on strike, because that's one of the things in terms of our engagement. The LRA, when you look at the LRA Schedule 6, it's very clear in terms of what needs to happen. It will tell you that for you to even talk of a strike, and I'm explaining just the involvement, where we are, for you to declare that excuse me, employees are on strike, you need to give them an ultimatum. That never happened at the 12, 13, 14, simply because the club as well, in terms of their own evidence that they led, believe that the players were never on strike. You know, they just concocted all those charges. Then on the 26th, the club then communicated with us to say, look, there's a possibility that the players may not go play. All right? And we said, okay, it's fine. We even suggested to the club that we need to meet with them, the players, the next day, and we met at the clubhouse place to come and resolve this particular matter. And alas, as we were busy, of course, trying to resolve all these particular matters. And I must state that, sure that the players were not even on strike, Temba. The players were informed on the 27th to say you must show up at the thing, bring your kit, you must be kitted in your your club kit. You must also bring your soccer boots. And they all did that. And in the middle of the negotiations, then Mokhashwa decided to cancel the game. As they come back to charge the players with the issue of the refusal to go and play. We can confirm that such doesn't happen. Those who understand football, and those who have been football for quite a long time, you would know that for you to go play, there's no player that's going to jump onto that bus without being told to get in there and play. There's no player that's going to play football without being told to do so. When you have a team that has about 35 players, you are going to say out of the 35, it used to be 18, but we know after COVID it's 20 now. The club must say 20 players must get more passing and go and play. Nothing of sort happened. They didn't even know who was going to play. So all these charges, you know, that have been concocted against the players are nowhere to be found and stuff and all that. But the reality of the matter is they had to do something so that they chase the players and renegotiate. We can tell you on record that these people currently, they are pushing players to renegotiate their contracts, to say, we now know, and we've requested the club to give us the decision, the sanction, because remember, the sanction that's out there, this is what the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing is suggesting and proposing to the club, to say 22 players must be fired with immediate effect. Of course, those are the prayers of the club. They were represented and they made those prayers to say we want the players to do. They took the prayers. They rejected everything else. And they are now using that. And we've asked them to give us the sanction, you know, the decision. What is the decision? Are you adopting the decision of the chairperson? So that once you adopt the decision, we can then run and go to the relevant tribunal to do the cases. Where we're sitting at the point, it's difficult to take that decision of or the outcome of the chairperson's thing and go with it because the club has not adopted it. But we've put them to terms to say they need to respond. You know, by end of business today, if they do not respond, then we will have to take the matter to the TRC so that we are then able to address those matters. So we have been involved and we are very aware of what's involved in all these particular matters. But we can tell you that they are negotiating with the players. You would have seen some of you, there were already players who are pressured to say, no, come, let's renegotiate. The club says they don't want you, we still want you, and let's take that. And we think that's a very evil and diabolical thing to do.
President, you touched on the statement that at some point, even the salary, like the pay slips, players were not getting that consistently. Can you sort of shed light in terms of how far that has been happening? And in terms of the process of this whole disciplinary process, where players afforded sort of a chance or whatever, some form of opportunity to sort of play their case, because from the look of things, it seems it's been a very one-sided process.
No, we can confirm that the players were represented at the disciplinary hearing, and the union did that. We led, of course, our evidence. We think we put a very, very good case. But as you know, the internal processes, normally by their own nature, are such that you are told that there's an independent chairperson But we know that there is nothing independent about the person that has been given to yourselves. He's been appointed by the club, all right? He gets appointed by the club. He's there by the club. He's got the briefing of the club. And these things, you also get to see them as and when you proceed. So the club had already taken a decision that says these players must really be dismissed. So we can't really say it was. So our best bet is a recourse to say we know that because this to us, it's exactly that. It's just a stage that assists us to go seek for justice. So we will then go to the dispute resolution chamber where we believe that there's a independent chairperson and everybody is represented and the players will be able to I mean, the evidence that was led in that hearing, if it were to be led anywhere else, it will not see the light of day. So they were represented. I think the first part of your question? The players have not been receiving their salary slip. Let me put it to you that as things are at Swallows, you as a player, first and foremost, I mean, they say in the payroll it's just a broken system at Swallows. But as a player, you are likely to earn your salary on the 15th, 17th, or whatever of this month. So if they pay you for December, as they pay the players on the 15th of December before the game, Super Sport, they pay the players. But that was not the salary for December, by the way. It was a salary for November. But not only that, there were salaries that the players were owed. But the players, because they love the team and they love playing football, they said, look, you came to us on the 12th of December when we negotiated, when we said we want money, all right? And we gave you our demands to say you owe us this much. There are so many months that we are owed. You have not paid us. However, it's fine. December, and I know a lot of people want to come and tell us that December is just like any other month. We know that it never is. We can have the discussion around that. But the club makes a commitment on the 12th of December to say you'll get your salary. At least, they said, as part of the negotiations, because you have not been paying us. And each time we receive payment, we must go pay what we owed 5-7 months ago. So we don't have salary. Give us the money. They agreed to say they'll give them the money on the 22nd. But it's not a written commitment. It's just a verbal commitment. But we take that as an agreement because we want to believe that any agreement whatsoever, be verbal or on a written document, it will serve as a thing. So they don't pay the players. Then on the 22nd, they did not even pay the players. And on the 26th, that's when the players said, if you don't do this, we are not going to honor the game. But that was the first part. The second part would have been, at least you should then be able to give us something, a commitment in writing that says, we will pay you this much by when and stuff and all that. So all along, the players have not been paid. And therefore, it made it very difficult for the club to issue them with pay slips. You know, you're not going to get your pay slip if you do that. Currently, one of the fundamental issues why the players must also have their pay slips, it's around the issues of UIF. The players have not been paid. It's the whole of December. They cannot even go to Labour and go and ask for the monies and apply for UIF. You go there, it bounces and all that. And we think the league also has got a role to play there. So how do we then ensure that we preserve the integrity and the legitimacy of the club? We have raised this matter on a number of occasions. The issue around financial fair play, whatever the form and shape that the financial fair play needs to take, it's a matter that we need to sit and discuss. But it is important to ensure that the validity of the contract is protected. Because if you don't do that, you really do not have football. Because what Swallows is doing at this particular point is criminal. They are going, what will stop another club? I mean, God forbid, there are a lot of clubs, that have got financial difficulties. Tomorrow they hold the DC, they concord charges, trump card charges, they find players guilty, and they renegotiate the contracts that are non-existent. So for us, we strongly believe that those are some of the matters that we believe really needs to change so that the players, can be respectfully, be given, in return what they give, each time they go and play and so forth. So yeah, there is no issue of pay slips and all that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we must give emphasis, and it's really important, Comrade President, because everybody, I mean, including the way this matter was reported, the understanding is that the players' issue is just around the December salary because they wanted to be paid for December to have a nice time. That is not that. Players are owed signing on fees. There's lots of outstandings that are there. And the question that we asked, and which I asked as well, if you are not paid your June and July salary, and you are paid in August and September, the salary you receive in September, which month is it addressing? This is the challenge that we're talking about. And that is why we say the payroll system of Moroka Swallows has completely collapsed. So then how this is narrated is the players are not disciplined. They claiming that they need to be paid in advance just because it's December. It's not about December. It's about all other outstandings. And this has been long coming. At the point, President, when Moroka Swallows was coached by Ernst Mindendorp, players would plead and say, we will not be able to make it to training because we have run out of funds. We have borrowed from friends and families and we have exhausted all avenues. The team has not been paying us for months. Now, I won't be able to come to training. And those players that don't come to training, they were subjected to a fine by the club. Now you can understand what is it that we are dealing with. We are dealing with the barbaric behavior that seeks not to respect and protect the contracts of these players. And these players have been understanding to the situation. They've been lenient on the club. They tried to protect the image of the team. They wanted to play football and ensure that everything is kept under wraps, being the professionals that they are. But in the end, when you are unable to meet your commitments, you are hit by this team. At this point, even Uwandisile Tlabika on record, which is one of the discussions we had, Uwandisile Tlabika had to go and pay for his knee operation because the team did not assist with that. And we know how that works. When you have an injury, the team pays on your behalf. They assist with the rehabilitation process. At the end, they claim the money from the insurance, which is Delphi Shaw. Moroka Swallows has not done that. So that's what players go through. And nobody really seems to care or look into that. It's as though these players are ill-disciplined. They do what they want anytime they want. We must also get in touch and understand that playing football is very painful in South Africa nowadays, given the treatment that the players are suffering. And it's not only Moroka Swallows, it's everywhere where it's happening. Emil Ford, right now, there are problems of salaries that are not paid. And if players take the very same action, they will then say these players are wrong. They will quickly run to the courts when these players are called in meetings and asked to understand, to say, we have a financial difficulty. Can you guys bear with us? Players are reasonable. You talk to them, they are understanding. But when they have enough, when you keep on lying and breaking the promise, at some point, you must take a stand. But what is happening right now is very funny and fabricated. And we know exactly why Swallows has taken this route at DC, why there are these recommendations that are made by the chairman, which have been made in rounds in the mirror that says Swallows has fired the players, because at this point, nothing officially has happened. But I think we need to have, Comrade President, a very serious discussion in relation to football. We need to have an indaba or ilikhutla or whatever it is and thoroughly thrash these issues and deal with football in how it has to be decisively, because there are no sanctions for teams for late payments. Players are not paid, there are no sanctions. And this is what we've raised over the years, to say they just do it 5-6 months without giving the players a right to leave. And nothing really happens to them. A player misses training for 2 days, a player is fined 50% of his salary. A player, I mean, we would have even engaged with players in TS Galaxy when we would have gone and saw the players. They fine players ridiculously. A player would be fined 10,000 rands for having, let's just say you are involved in a tackle and you protest, and that is part of the game. When you just go to the ref and say, but no, it was not a fine, a foul. The ref gives a yellow card. Because you engaged with the ref, you get fined 10,000 rands. For using boots that they say are not specified for the game. I don't know who gets to decide these things. Players are fined 15,000 rands if you are found to have used boots that they think are not the standard or the boots you should have used for the game. Where is a schedule that speaks about the disciplinary and the fine code of conduct that outlines what offense fines in whatever way? People do these things as they go. It's just they walk about it and they just think about it and it's done. This justice for the players needs to be there. And the players, I mean, press, they are fierce comrades. We have signed the CBA, very clearly so, recognized by the league, and we do go to teams to recruit. We've got a right, we must write a notice and give them sufficient time in order for them to prepare for us to come. And the most key part to do that is during preseason. Because in preseason, there are no official games. We are not disrupting the program of the team, but we still get resistance. Now, when this happens during the season, you are given 1 hour to engage players and give them a report of 2 years. That is information overload. It becomes very difficult for players to really take these things in and understand. And I think somehow, there's a strategy to deny them access to this information because their wisdom becomes their resistance in the acts of cruelty that are happening within the football system and that is perpetuated and laid to the footballers. I will stop at that, comrades.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
President, I just wanted to understand through your engagement with the chairman of the club, because ultimately I think everything boils down to the chairman. You know, has he maybe through with Safpu, has he come through and just explained some of his challenges that he's facing? Because I think this financial problem, the Swallows will start now, like the SG just mentioned. Did he mention maybe some timelines as to when does he think these problems will be solved? In terms of the financial challenges, as you said, players have been owed money before. What I just want to understand is that has he come through to you as a place to say these are the challenges that we're having, and we expect by this time to maybe overcome the problem that we're having? Because I believe they're getting granted money. So where is that kind of money going to?
No, thank you for the question. I think the issue here is, when you raise that particular issue of the grant, sometimes when you play in an elite league, like the league, the PSL, you really need to do more. And I think one of the fundamental issues is you can have the grant, but you also need to do your own work to make sure that you pay. When we spoke to him, he said, look, I have a grant. I get a grant, but my salary bill is a bit steep. The question is, are there any measures in place to ensure that you run firstly a successful business, but how do you then ensure that you do not get a person into the league that's not necessarily going to live to up what they want? Because this is what we mean when we say financial fair play, Tim. When you look at those issues and you have proper measures, you would then be able to get them to say that's it. But in terms of the promises, the players, and Nopala says, the players have been engaged. You see, the players sit and you say, I'll pay you tomorrow. Come tomorrow, you are nowhere to be seen. You don't want to talk to the players. You want to force them to accept everything and anything that comes their way. You keep on saying they must go and train. You come back and they say, can you at least promise by when are you going to give us the money? That's it. But let's make a simple example. On the 27th, when we had a meeting with Swallows management, when we parted, after they canceled the game, this is the commitment they made. We asked, in full view of the players, when are these players going to get their salary in December? They said on the 30th of December, they will get their salaries. Yes, on the 30th or the 31st of salary, in line with their contracts, because it says the last business day of the month, the players will be paid. That's what they said. Today, Timmy, is the 23rd. The players have not received their salaries. What the players received on the 30th was these concocted charges. They manufactured charges, and they then said, no, you guys have been on strike. It's funny, though, that they said the players have since been on strike. When on the 27th, the very same 27th, I think on the 28th, when we parted, they said they will see the player, they will communicate with the player as to when to report for training. The day after, they communicated with the players to say the players must report on the 15th of June, 15th of Jan, all right? And it's there. And the player should also not go and play, your December games and so forth. So there's an instruction. So when the charges come, they say, no, the players are on strike. How are you on strike when you have been allowed time off from work to come back on the 15th? And you are charged, you receive a charge sheet that says you continue to be on strike and thereby bringing the club into disrepute. It tells you the kind of people that we are dealing with. It tells you the people who would go there and say, let us play in the sympathy and turn the communities or turn the supporters against these Moroka Swallows players. And that should not be accepted. No one will accept it. I don't think anyone here would come here and work, and at the end of the month, you are not paid. You are told just, no, play for free and we'll give you your money. And they don't even give you the terms. That's absolute rubbish. That's nonsense. And we must never accept such thing to happen under our watch.
Sir?
I wanted to ask, have you approached FIFA? Have you approached FIFA about the issue?
In relation to?
Swallows alleged actions.
Oh, no. What's going to happen? Remember, there are these recommendations that 22 players must be dismissed. At this particular point, we are unable to move to approach the right tribunal, which is the National Dispute Resolution Chamber. Of course, what we need to do, what needs to happen is that Swallows must communicate to us in relation to the decision of the chairperson of the DC and say, we agree with this thing and we implement it. But they are not going to do that because they are using that to renegotiate some of the contracts. They go to these players, those who are vulnerable, the young players as well, to say, look, the club, the chairperson says we must dismiss you, but we think you've got a good career. Let us go work with you. We can reestablish. But however, we cannot take you back on these terms. So as soon as we get that, we will go there. If we don't, we are not successful at the league, which I doubt it will happen, we will take it for an appeal. We'll go to the highest decision. We'll go to Safpu to go and appeal. If not, we'll see how we approach any other thing. But this must not only be a legal process. It also has to be, in terms of the social movement, to say how do we then deal with this matter and raise fundamental issues. They are lying down there. They have not been training, and they ought to be playing the next game. So if they miss the next game, what's going to happen? It's not like the players that are going to come now will get the salary. As long as we still have that kind of management that we are sitting with, we're going to have a problem. And we are aware of a number of things which we have always raised as an organization. And one such issue, Tim, would have always been the issue around the issue of sponsorship. And I know that's an easy way for people to go to sometimes. Say, but we are not getting sponsors and all that. We also understand that the sponsor is still very lily white, the sponsorship issue, because they don't want to pump money into the football games. And those are the issues that we must also address. But that should not take away the responsibility of the clubs from doing what they need to do and paying the clubs. We know they don't want to sponsor football. We know they don't want to do that. And what becomes that? And these are some of the discussions that really must be had in terms of what we need to going forward in assisting the football, as it were, so that we do not discourage the young kids and those who want to play football and represent us at the level of the winning Bafana Bafana.
And now you're hot. You fired up. I can see 10 as well. Okay, I'll give you a chance, sir. Then you got that. You and you, Fatma. You'll be the last. Thank you. Oh, you'll be the last one. Sure. In that particular order, please.
Mr. President, I'm from Soccer Laguna. I wanted to ask, these challenges that are facing with regards to salaries, are they limited to the players only, or do they stretch over to the technical team and the rest of the staff at Swallows?
We can confirm that they stretch to the rest of the staff at Swallows. I mean, one of the discussions that we had when we met with the players on the 27th, they would have been around there to inform us, say, the technical staff also, they have not been paid. But what is very difficult for the technical staff at times is for them to stand up and just fight for those particular issues, because they are made to believe that if they do that, they will, of course, be chased. Now, imagine what will happen to their psyche to say, hey, 22 players and that's it. And most of them, when they talk to you, they're like, you see, we told these boys, we did this and that and the other. And I think we must keep on emphasizing this point, that we reject this notion that says the players were on strike. At no point did these players go on strike. If anything to the contrary, at any given point when they were requested to report for training or do that, they were there. Report for camp, they were there at camp. They even played when they were not paid. We demonstrated now to say they received their monies on the 20th. Their contract says they must receive their money at the end of each and every, at the end of the last business day of the month. They must receive their salaries. But they are not paid. What do? Did they go on strike? They honored those games without having received any salary. So it's just a fallacy. It's a lie. This thing that's been concocted to say the players wanted to go because, like the SG was saying, it's December now, they are happy and stuff and all that. But so what? It is very important when everybody in the league, by the way, a lot of people will be paid this and that. You want them to stay home. Stay home, and you are not paying them. What are they eating? Will they eat the pre-match meal with you when you eat there? No, it's not about that. We need to do that. Players now must go to school. People must go to school. Tomorrow, you yourselves will be writing in the papers. So-and-so is no longer with their partners because they are going to lose their livelihood. And when you lose your livelihood, you are likely to lose the people who are very close to yourself. Because these are young people, and you need to provide for them. You know what the impact of those things are? How many people, we don't talk of issues of mental health here. We normally, relegate them to the back door. But these are serious matters. Tomorrow, these players are unable to do and go and work. They cannot even stand. All their standings in society is questioned. What happens to their mental health? We don't care. And as long as they get onto the field, they play football and that's it. We don't even know where these players come from. That cannot be promoted. We really need to talk against those issues. We need to talk about them and highlight them. How many, this is youth. You get these young people, in actual fact, some of these players, when they leave playing football, they are worse off than where they started. It would seem like, hey, you should not have played there. I know that you want to play them for financial literacy. You waste your money and stuff. It's not like that all the time, Timber. There are measures that needs to be put in place and be taken by the club. Pay them their salaries on time. Pay them according to their schedule, and you'll then be able to do that. We must not take these things for granted.
Sorry guys, just as a reminder, can you please tell us your name and the media outlet you're coming from? Thank you. We can continue that one. Yeah? Yes, sir.
SG, Siasama here from Sunny World. You spoke with so much passion when you were addressing some of the burning matters that are crippling our football. So now, what has the league done regarding this matter, if anything? And lastly, I don't know, there's been rumors that there will be more players that have been kicked out of the club at Swallows. Do you have any knowledge about that? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know whether we call it passion or we call it pain. It's very difficult for me to distinguish. Remember, I've been a player. I've been sitting where the players are sitting. I experienced what these players are experiencing. And sometimes not through me, sometimes through my colleagues. So I know what it means to be undermined when you give your all and you are dedicated and you are passionate, you are respectful, you are professional. There is nothing that you don't bring to the table. But a team has one responsibility, to pay you at the end of the month, and they fail consistently on that. And you are treated like the worst person in the room when you want your money. It's like, even today it still happens. You sign a I don't understand this point. You sign a contract. A team does not want to give you a copy of your contract. What is a secret there? Because this gives you your terms of employment. Uguti, this is what is happening. These are my responsibilities. These are obligations of the club. This is the amount of money we have agreed upon. Why are contracts a secret when the relationship between the player and the club finds its expression here? They still don't issue those contracts, and we get and experience a lot of problems with that. Let me tell you how it disadvantages players. One, when a team infringes the rights of the player in relation to contractual agreement, it takes longer for us to get a copy of the contract of a player, because the player has a case. He's probably not paid for 2 months. We then need to file forms and apply for a contract upliftment at the PSL, and that takes about 21 working days. At the most. By the time it comes back, this player is 4 or 5 months without being paid. Now the process, we must then write a letter of demand to the team for them to remedy the breach. It's 10 working days. You're talking 2 full weeks. Let's keep on adding. If they don't do anything or respond to that, the matter comes back to us. We then refer the matter to the NDRC. That takes a month, 2, or sometimes 3, even 4, depending on how busy they are in terms of the backlog of cases. So we are talking an employee that would go for 5, 6, 7, 8 months waiting for his case. And the frustrations come to us as the union, because they feel like we are not doing what we ought to do, because sometimes they don't understand the procedures. Sometimes it's difficult to understand the procedure when you are hungry and you know you're old man. You want your money. So it's what I know, and it's the pain that I know, and it's the pain that I know the players are feeling. Just yesterday, there's a boy who came into the office who's turned into a beggar, who slept in the street, a player for Kasrik. And simply because he was honest, he spoke to the team and informed them that there is a team that is interested in me. And I've only played 3 games this season. Can you guys then give me my clearance? I don't want any man, so I can go and play, pursue my career. It's a better opportunity. It's in the PSL. You know what they said? They said, no, it's okay. It's December break, come in January, say your goodbyes, go, we'll give you a clearance, you must sign papers. We want you to live on good conditions so that in future we have a relationship. The player came back. In fact, he stayed for 5, 6, 7, 8 days. The team reopened on the 7th. He stayed a week, nothing was said, and the chairman or the team manager said, I will call you so that you come and we honor these things. Now the boy sees there's an opportunity. One, it's AFCON. It's an opportunity for him to play at the new team and gel with the team because there are no official games. Number 2, it's Katsiajula. Nothing is really happening. He came down. He was made to wait when they had a meeting. He was told, we'll see you on Saturday. They sent him a location to go to Midrand. Without money, without anything. The boy went. He waited there from 4 when they were supposed to have a meeting. He got a call at 6:30. Guess what the team manager asked the boy? Actually, what is it that you want us to discuss? The boy came all the way from KZN. He was not allowed to train with the team. They said, we'll have our discussions with you. Now, he was then told, go to the garage and wait there. The boy waited at the garage until 3 a.m. Nobody came, nobody picked him up. A teammate or a colleague came to his rescue. He is now staying with his family. Now, when you try and engage with the club to say, there is no harm meant, can we discuss the future of the boy? Because it's our role to intervene. We don't have to fight. We are not enemies of the clubs. We want to fix the game. We want to ensure that we have responsible, capable footballers who can optimize their potential. He spoke of mental health, Comrade President. What does this do to this young man? What does it do to all other players whose stories never get told? He's here waiting. Nothing is really happening. So that's exactly where we are. And what was your next question here? What is the league doing? You know, press explain, it process when something of this nature happens and it takes a legal form. The PSL, we find justice or recourse at the level of the NTRC. Right now, it can just be discussions in how they view the game. They spoke because they sanctioned Swallows on the basis of what has happened. So when it comes to any other engagements that they have with the clubs, we don't know what they do, but we know they are not happy about this because this damages the brand of the game. But we get justice at the NTRC. I think that is the communication we get in order for us to drop back this justice for the players. But the process is still not as quick or as rapidly as we would want it to be. But we're happy because it has moved from what it was to where it is now. It's better. Players would wait for what? A year sometimes to get a date. Now with this new NTRC where there's equal representation in terms of player side and the club side, cases are moving slightly at a better rate, but we would want it to get even better in relation to that. I am passionate or angry because Aubrey Ngoma has played football for the longest of time. We recently assisted Aubrey with the UIF, and it was a very tedious process because 3 of the teams that he has played for, they are not contributing to UIF, but on his payslip it appears. Now he's unemployed. This is where he needs to draw back because he would have invested. That's money that has been deducted, or so-called deductions have taken place. So what we received was just a small sum of the money and not what he deserves. What do you then do? We are in the process of helping other players with that because it's a service that we are giving us as an organization. But we come across these things. Think of the tax implications where on your pay slip it says you are paying tax. When your football career comes to an end, or at some point, you find SARS writing you letters to tell you that you have not contributed to your payee for the last 5 or 6 years, and they slap you with a bill of 400,000, or they attach your property or any other thing. How do you then go back and resolve that? There is a lot happening, a lot of injustices, a lot of hills, but we are saying there is no reason for us to be heartless to these players who are the brand and the heartbeat of football. We need to support these players. That's what we want. We talk of wanting future administrators. We want them because it seems right now the people who own these football clubs, on the basis that they never experienced football at the level of what these guys are going through, they are not concerned about changing their ways. They are not concerned about the well-being and ensuring that there's fairness in the treatment that these players receive. We need to stand up as the players, come and take up these sports so that we can implement what we missed in our playing days to ensure that the next generation is not dealing with this rubbish and the nonsense that we are dealing with from time to time. It can't be this painful to do what we love, what keeps nations happy, what unites the world, but we are the most depressed and undermined. Taking a salary home is not enough. You can go when the retail therapy, shop until you drop. If your emotions are not good, the shoe will make you happy today. The cap will make you happy today. In the week, you have a big hole that needs to be covered. Let's unlock these minds. Let's ensure that they are healthy, protected, and we are building future leaders, not just to use them for football. We want them everywhere in the sector. We want them as businessmen someday. We want them running their structures. We want them contributing back to their societies and uplifting others. But a broken man has no strength to go back there because the game as it is, it consumes the living hell and life out of us as players. We have to fight. And I wish I was a player, because what I would lead in the changing room, it would set a statement that would be known. I wish this leadership were still playing when these things happen, because I know we've got the hearts and we have the passion and the knowledge and we have no fears. But at this point, we are educating these players, and the time will come. And no one can turn an idea whose time has come, can't turn it back. It will happen. It will unravel. That's exactly where we are.
And I think maybe just to go back on the issue of Kasrik, it is important to make this point. Players are well aware. They are not just going to talk to the next club when they are still contracted. The boy is still contracted to Kasrik. It's a fact. But the reality is that Kasrik themselves called the player and communicated the offer. After communicating the offer, then the boy spoke with the club, that wanted him. And they said, no, come to Joburg, you'll get your paper and stuff, just come and say your goodbye. So I think it's very important that we talk about that, because the next question would be, but why would this player talk to another club when he's contracted to Classic? The team itself, he followed the right process. The team informed, the would-be, the team informed Kasrik, and Kasrik spoke with the boy. They brought him to Johannesburg. I thought, no, but it's very important that we make that distinction, because that's the distinction, it's key. So that tomorrow we are not quoted as saying this player just went and decided to do otherwise. The reality of the matter is that he followed the necessary processes.
No, sorry, it's not there.
So you mentioned that this issue of non-payment of salaries
prevalent in the league. Could this probably be motivated by the fact that, these clubs, realize that there's a whole lot of loopholes, that they can take advantage in, they also, maybe players don't also speak out enough, you've already said players as well as they're not paid for several months now, yet it's only coming out in the public eye now. This will probably be a case of the club bosses, knowing very well that they can always get away with this.
And that is why we're calling on the league to do something firstly, with regards to the issues of your financial fair play and all that. But you must also understand this, love more. You need to have been in that dressing room and been part and parcel of the football in South Africa to understand the mentality around that. You have about 30 players at any given time. There's 11 players and they will pit you against this other person. The players are very understanding by their nature. Because you are saying to me, please go and play. I will pay you on such and such a date. But that date never arrives. It never gets there. You are always, each time there is this date, there is something else. Each time there is this date, something else is happening. You know what I mean? So you don't really get to be paid. But like we say, we are hard at work educating the players. I mean, one of the things that we have just done as South African football players, was to launch a podcast to say, how do we then communicate with these issues? So we're going to run those particular programs, and then the players themselves must come and tell their own stories, but they must own that content. It's very important. They need to get to that level. We have moved from that point that says we are just going to be fighting in the room. Even the Safpu has got a responsibility to say, let us create those opportunities economically, so that we are then able to get the players themselves into this space where they are going to participate. It can't be correct. You started as young people, most of you. Tasfiso, started very young. He's still here. He's participating in this economy where he has played and he masters this space. I can't tell him anything about this industry and all that. And yourselves, you are learning. But our players, they can't even participate after they've played in the economy, let alone even in the second economy, because they are not capacitated in terms of addressing those issues. We have partners. We have launched, we're in this very same room to say, what is it that we want to do? We brought everybody, your media platforms, you brought your 12 Global Africa into this space to say, you must go out there and let us unleash the potential. We need to unleash the potential of Safpu so that these players themselves can lead. The players are not going to lead. They're not going to take the influential positions if we do not jack them up and say, come, you are supported. So we said, let us build Love More, that family. But it doesn't start there. We need to start them down there. You are not going to choose Love More whether your kids want to play football or not. We must help them so that when they grow, first and foremost, they must know their rights. Firstly, as human beings, before they know their rights as players. Automatically, if they know as they say constitutionally unprotected, then that will ultimately just go then down there and say, this is where we are in terms of the Bill of Rights and so forth. But we're doing everything possible to ensure that these players get what's rightfully theirs, and they will be able to tell their story. We can. I mean, a lot of people you have seen, Bolirat, you have seen them, they're there. And all we do is that, how do we assist them? We need to create programs, projects that are going, and campaigns that are going to ensure that we reach all these things to make sure that the players themselves are able to own this thing. So they need to own their content. The time is gone where players will just go and play. We've played the game, we play, you go, you get out of there because you are angry. There is nothing else that you can do. So the time is now for us to be able to change the livelihoods of these players.
That gentleman, then you will then give the last one.
Sure, President, we understand all the players were charged. According to the list, what about the other players? Did they choose to be represented by other people?
You'd know that some players have got their own agents, all right? And some of their matters are handled by agents. So there would have been those agents, of course, that would have chosen their own legal representatives, and they were represented by that. But of course, one thing that we've agreed on with all, because we consulted with them, we checked with them, was to agree that the players were never on strike. That those charges, that has been proffered against the players are nothing but just a small screen that will assist them to kick these players out. So we represented those that we have. But of course, there would have been those other players when we started that were represented by different agents and said, no, we believe in our capabilities as the South African Football Players Union. Go ahead and deal with this particular matter as it were.
Oh, yes, they were not dismissed. I heard him say in the question, the 22 players that were dismissed. They were not dismissed. It's the recommendation of the chairperson of the disciplinary hearing. So they are not officially dismissed, like we've said. So no players dismissed at this point, even though it might, but it has not happened.
My question is twofold. And thanks, SG, for explaining the process and some of the challenges in terms of bringing justice for players. The first part is, do you think that the structure of SA football is conducive in protecting players? When you look at the BOG, for instance, it's made up of 32 club owners. And you've touched on that when a player misses training or they, whatever, they get a fine. But when teams miss payment or do something, they don't get any sort of punishment. And the second part is, what needs to change in terms of ensuring that players are better protected, beyond just in terms of the call of having a financial fair play?
No. It is our humble submission that we believe that there's still a lot that needs to be done in the South African context to protect the players. Let's just take this simple example. You have a 22-page of a contract that's signed between the player and the club. It's 22 pages. In all those pages, the responsibility of the club is just one, to pay salaries. You don't have an exit clause. You don't have anything in that standard contract. Of course, it's better than where we started because we would have negotiated the issue of a standard contract and we can refer the matters and so forth and whatnot. But we submit that. That needs to change so that the employer, who happens to be a club in this instance, is then able to be held accountable on the contracts that they sign. If that, just that little change, it will be okay. But the issue of our football is not necessarily even only about the BOG and stuff and all that. It has to change from the top, at the level of SAFA, so that SAFA is able to influence what we need to do and get right at the issues of the league. We do not have that. And up until we have such, we will then be able to, we know that we've got this credible institution in SAFA that's able to really look at this. Remember, you have the handbook at the PSL. And this handbook, before it's approved, it has to sit here. And these people will then have to look at it as to whether it's fine and all that. But we agree that there are a lot of regulations that are missing, including that issues of the what needs to happen in terms of the financial fair play, and even some of the things that we have. Of course, we are part and parcel of the National Dispute Resolution Chamber, we must say so. But I think one of the things that we must also, and discussing, of course, is to say, how are we really implementing some of the things in terms of the sanctions that ought to be there? It is very clear in terms of the sanctions. And if they can take some serious actions, whether they reprimand, or which a reprimand or a warning, or they deduct points for not paying salaries, by the way, or they stop you from signing from signing the players for the current season. All those things are there. They are provided for. The issue is about the implementation of those things. If we can just see a bit of implementation on some of these small things, small gains that we have made, we will then be headed in the right direction. And I think that will begin to say, hey, take a charge. When you go to FIFA and they find against you, when they fine you, or they take a decision and they sanction you to say, you may not sign players up until you have paid. You may not do this and that. They implement it to the latter. Otherwise, they will take they'll take the points from you, or you may even face expulsion, as it were. So we need to implement the little that we have. I don't think we are implementing it hard enough, and to the extent that we are not doing that, the clubs will always take that view that says, we know they'll go to the DRC. The least that will happen, they will just pay their salaries. The league will deduct directly from them and pay over to the club. Does it really shake them? I doubt it does at times. So I think we need to deal with that. And I think what would have been the other point? No, I think we have dealt with the...
You've covered it all.
Yeah, I think we have spoken to that.
Yeah, and this will be the last question.
Just out of curiosity, the vetting, we've seen year in, year out, one or two teams will have financial problems because what I've picked up is that it's easy for PSL teams to be bought, to buy status. I mean, it can date back to the days of your Bloemfontein Celtic and all of that. Now, are you guys involved in the selling and buying of statuses as the union to prevent such things happening? Is it something that you've pondered on to say, we as the union must be involved in the transactions where players' lives are involved? Because, I mean, you fought well when other teams bought players and then bought statuses and never actually wanted to adopt some players, the fusion of two clubs and all of that. What's your stance when it comes to that? And when it comes to players, representation, not all players are subscribers, if I may use that term loosely, to the union. How do you then represent people who are not members of your union? Do you also add them, or you only deal with those that are part of the union?
Let's take the first part. We are involved in the sales of clubs, but to a point. And our responsibility there is to firstly protect, the contracts of the players, of the club that sold, when the players are to move. Such that, this is one of the gains that we made over the years, and it's part and parcel of the handbook, because we fought for that, to say, whoever buys a club or sells a club, it has to be going on consent basis. That you take the liabilities and the assets of the club so that the club's contracts are protected. So you may not just say, I'm buying status, like Swallows would want to do, probably, and say, we are selling Swallows, it's only the status, so the contract of the players, they are left in limbo. We have seen that over the years, but we managed to wear that fight. But we are not involved in terms of the financials, probably, of the club, to say, is this club able to be sustained? And we also, like we said, we don't think there is such a mechanism that says, for you to own a club in the league, you need to at least be financially sustainable for the next coming 5 years. Do you have the money? Do you have this and stuff and all that? So insofar as that aspect is concerned, we are not involved. But we strongly believe that something must give in that regard. There must be continuous discussion, but there must be legislation that will then deal with this matter so that it safeguards whatever the gains that we have made. Football, it's our passionate, in particular, as the majority of this country, the black people, That's the only thing that we really own. And others will tell you that the taxis are one of the transports that we own. But we are unable to really participate. So we cannot sit and allow football to go to waste, because we'll have nothing for our kids, we'll have nothing for generations to come. If there is anything that brings us together, is this thing called football, and we really need to begin to ensure that it's really protected. On the second part of the of representation, there's what we call in the LRA, there's a closed shop and an agency shop. Now, when you negotiate with the employer, given the collective bargaining agreement that the Secretary General was talking about, you either sit and you negotiate to say, okay, let us sit. We want to have a closed shop agreement, meaning that whoever gets where we are automatically becomes a member of the organization, because there are spin-offs in being a member. Firstly, the issue of ensuring that we've won, to have the National Dispute Resolution Chamber that is compliant. They benefit. On the probably Nopala if we have a fair play, everybody will do that. The issue of the insurance, every player by extension, they benefit whether they are members or not. So if you are a member, most of those players will represent. But players, of course, you would need a consent from them, or in a power of attorney, they will come and say, this is where we are, those who are not necessarily the members of the organization. And we will then talk with them and represent. But I think we need to unite everybody, behind one common goal. And that common goal is to improve the lives of the players and improves the lives of those players or households that those players are leading and so forth. And I think for me, that's what would make and change the landscape of South African football.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've come to the end of our event today, and let me thank you for your time. And there's a clean place on your right hand side. Please let's make sure that you get dirty, and thanks for your time. Thank you.